We're going to begin. Good. Welcome, everyone, to the March 17th regular meeting of the Transportation Commission. The Transportation Commission is conducting this meeting from the City Council chamber, and staff are complying with the current regulations of the California Department of Public Health and Cal OSHA for safe indoor meetings. As a courtesy and technology permitting, members of the public may continue to provide live, remote, oral public comment via the city's Zoom video conferencing platform. However, the city cannot guarantee that the public's access to teleconferencing technology will be uninterrupted, and technical difficulties may occur from time to time. Members of the public desiring to provide comments at the meeting are encouraged to attend the meeting in person. We require that all unvaccinated in-person attendees wear masks consistent with Contra Costa County health orders. And would the secretary please call roll?
Okay, Commissioner Ash,
Here.
Commissioner German,
Here.
Commissioner Reese,
Here.
Commissioner Salcido,
Here.
and Vice Chair Cagle.
Here, present. Thank you. Would the secretary please provide the public comment information?
Okay. This portion of the meeting is reserved for comment on items not on the agenda. Under the Brown Act, the Commission cannot act on items raised during the public communications, but may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed, request clarification, or refer the item to staff. When brought in for comment, please state your name and city of residence for the record. You will have 2 minutes to provide your public comment.
And are there any members of the public who wish to comment on any item not on the agenda? Oh, sorry.
We have no members of the public wanting to provide comments.
Okay, and if they're online, they can use the raise hand feature or press *9 if connected by audio only.
Okay.
Any from that?
Yeah. So we don't have anybody, so we'll move on.
Great.
To consent calendar.
All right, consent calendar. Next on the agenda is the adoption of the February 17th, 2022 meeting minutes. Would the secretary please provide the public comment information?
Would any member of the public wish to comment on adoption of the minutes? If any member of the public would wish to provide comment on the minutes, please use the raise hand feature, press *9 if you're connected by audio only. If you would like to provide a public comment, you will have 2 minutes to provide your public comment. But we have no members of the public.
Okay. Do I have a motion for the approval of the minutes from the February 17th commission meeting?
So
Make a
moved.
motion.
Okay. Was that a first from, I think I heard Commissioner Salcido first, and second from Commissioner German? Okay. Would the secretary please call roll?
Okay. Commissioner Salcido,
Aye.
Commissioner German,
Aye.
Commissioner Ash,
Aye.
Commissioner Reese,
Abstain.
and Vice Chair Cagle.
I'm actually going to abstain as well since I wasn't there due to a conflict for the special meeting.
Okay. We have 3 ayes and 2 abstains.
Great, thank you. Next on the agenda is an item for commission consideration, the election of a new chair and vice chair. Would the secretary please provide the public comment information?
Sure. Please use the raise hand feature or press *9 if you're connected by audio only. If you would like to provide a public comment, you will have 2 minutes to provide your public comment, but we have no members of the public wanting to provide comments.
Okay. Do I have a motion for the election of a new chair?
I nominate Samantha Cagle for chair.
Thank you.
We also nominate a vice chair at the same time. A vice chair. We didn't nominate one at the same time.
We'll start with chair first, and then we'll move on to.
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Sam?
Would the secretary please call the roll?
Okay. Commissioner Salcido.
Aye.
Commissioner Ash.
Aye.
Commissioner German. Commissioner Reese.
Aye.
And Vice Chair Cagle.
Aye.
Okay. We have 5 ayes for who is now Chair Cagle. So congratulations.
It's official. Oh, thank you. Okay, do I have a motion for the election of a new vice chair?
I could nominate Jeremy Ash for vice chair.
Great. And a second?
Second?
Wonderful. Would the secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner German.
Aye.
Commissioner Salcido.
Aye.
Commissioner Ash.
Aye.
Commissioner Reese.
Aye.
And Chair Cagle.
Aye.
Okay. 5 ayes. Congratulations. Okay. There we go.
All right, thank you, everyone. Next on the agenda is an item for commission consideration, Commissioners' Committee appointments. At this time, I invite staff to provide their presentation.
Okay.
The committee appointments, yeah. It's in the agenda report, item 4B, and there's the mayor's quarterly breakfast, which is assumed that the chair and vice chair attend, and then the CCTA appointment and the shared mobility working group appointment. So at this point, would the chair please provide public comment information?
Okay. It doesn't appear that we have any members of the public, so I think we can proceed with the appointments.
Okay. Are there any commissioner comments?
David, are you currently on the shared mobility? Do you wish to stay on that? Then I would like to nominate David for that role.
Okay. And it looks like we have 2 appointments for that. So is there any other interest in the shared mobility working group?
Danny was a former member, so we need to have my new.
Correct.
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Great. I'll nominate.
Reese?
Reese.
Excellent. A nomination for Commissioner Reese. May I have a motion for, because that was, I guess, the motion. Is there a second for these? Can we do them together? Is that okay? Or should we do them separately since it's 2 appointments for the shared mobility working group?
Motion by unanimous consent.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay.
I'll second it.
All those in favor of Commissioner German and Commissioner Reese for the shared mobility working group appointments?
Aye.
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 Aye. Is it okay if we all do it by voice vote rather than roll call?
I think I have ayes for, oh, okay. I have ayes for Commissioner Ash, Commissioner German, Commissioner Reese, Commissioner Salcido, and Chair Cagle. Okay.
Okay. So we have one other for consideration. That's the Contra Costa Transportation Authority Citizen Advisory Committee. Commissioner Ash has served on that in the past, serving since July 2020.
It's been that long.
Any comments or questions about this role?
I'm happy to stay and do it as kind of, didn't even realize I had to be reappointed, unless anybody else has a burning desire to do it. If you do, speak. Okay. Then I'm happy to do it for 1 more year and then turn it over.
Okay. May I have a motion?
I I'd like to make a motion that Jared Ash be reappointed to the Contra Costa Transportation Authority Citizen Advisory Committee.
Wonderful. And a second?
Second.
Excellent. Would you like to do a roll call for it?
Yes. Okay. Commissioner Salcido,
Aye.
Commissioner Reese,
Aye.
Commissioner Ash,
Aye.
Commissioner German,
Aye.
and Chair Cagill.
Aye. Okay. So I think that gets us through that. Since the chair and vice chair are expected to attend the mayor's quarterly breakfast, that's kind of an automatic appointment. Okay, moving on to item C. Next on the agenda is an item for commission consideration, the Ignacio Valley Road Safe and Smart Corridor Project. At this time, I invite staff to provide their presentation.
All right. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Alex Wong, Associate Engineer with the City of Walnut Creek. Tonight, I'm here to present to you the Ignacio Valley Road Safe and Smart Corridor Project. Project limits are on Ignacio Valley Road between St. Carlos Drive and Oak Grove Road. So for this presentation, I plan to provide an overview including the background, identified project components, funding opportunities, and the next steps, and for commission input. So with recent federal investment law in infrastructure, city staff has identified Ignacio Valley Road, a road listed on the National Highway System, and a road of regional significance as an important road that has the potential to align with upcoming grant funding opportunities. Ignacio Valley Road Safe and Smart Corridor Study is part of the 10-year capital investment program, also known as CIP, and is listed for fiscal year 24-25. Many components have been studied or are in the evaluation process, including the Fiber Master Plan, which was completed in 2018, the Ignacio Valley Road projects in the CIP generated from Traffic Impact Fund listings, which evaluated each of the projects, the pavement management program evaluating the city street network and is updated through periodic inspections, and the local road safety plan, which is in progress, and also the CCTA Innovative 680 Smart Signals project, which is also in progress. And here's an aerial of the project limits on Ignacio Valley Road. It starts on St. Carlos Drive at Header Farm Park, going east, going through the intersection of Bancroft Road, Wimbledon, Lennon, Wiggett, Viamonte, and ends at Oak Grove Road, going through the Shadelands Business Park. So some of the identified project components include the A Class 1 multi-use pedestrian bicycle path, a road safety improvements, traffic signal technology improvements, fiber optic infrastructure communication upgrades, transit facilities, green infrastructure, ADA improvements, and roadway resurfacing. So for the Class 1 multi-use pedestrian bicycle path, so a path for pedestrians and bicycles is planned along the north side of Ignacio Valley Road between Walnut Creek Board and Oak Grove Road. This project seeks to implement the phase of the path between San Carlos Drive and Viamonte. This would connect to an existing Class 1 multi-use path between Viamonte and Oak Grove Road. This connection would serve recreational and commuter cyclists and walkers, a regionally serving park, retail, restaurant, office, and residential uses. The project may also include pedestrian scale lighting and provide tree canopy for a more comfortable user experience. So road safety improvements. So medians would be reconstructed at some locations and realigned to improve safety and function. Intersection geometry and signal phasing would be modified. These improvements would employ the safe systems approach to reduce fatal severe injury, pedestrian and bicycle-related collisions using proven safety countermeasures. Traffic signal technology improvements. So traffic signal equipment would be upgraded to allow for proactive tracking and matrix. Improvements includes increased operational efficiencies of vehicle, pedestrians, and cyclists, and incident management. Fiber optic infrastructure, communication upgrades. So fiber optic infrastructure would be installed to support traffic signal technology improvements, improve communication, and increase bandwidth for data analysis and future upgrades. Transit facilities. Improvement to existing bus stops along Ignacio Valley Road will include ADA upgrades and enhanced rider amendments. This would provide a superior rider experience. Green infrastructure. So green infrastructure would be installed, including bioretention facilities that capture roadway runoff and treat pollutants prior to entering the storm drain system, reducing impact to local waterways. The basins will also reduce peak drainage flow, mitigating impact to downstream drainage facilities during heavy rain events. ADA improvements. Corridor improvements would incorporate upgrades to infrastructure to provide for those with accessibility needs, as required per Title III with Americans with Disabilities Act for public accommodations. Roadway resurfacing. The road will be repaved to improve performance and vehicle safety. Roadway will be restriped for improved visibility and vehicle tracking. Additionally, Ignacio Valley Road is the only street that provides access to John Muir Hospital, which is the only designated trauma center in the county. So funding, so potential funds federally, there's the bipartisan infrastructure law that went into effect and funded through the omnibus bill. Additional funding for the new and existing grant. This would fund additional funding, provide additional funding for new and existing grant programs. There's also the Highway Safety Improvement Program, ICSIP, and we could possibly look at earmark funding also. State-wise, there's the Road Repair and Accountability Act. This is SB1. And locally, there is the One Bay Area Grant, OBAG 3 is the next cycle. City funding, there's gas tax. The Contra Costa County Measure J, traffic impact fees, but there will be no general funds for this. So next steps, we're seeking input from the commission and to provide feedback on the project components, if there's any missing components that you're looking for. And that's it. Open it up for questions and comments.
Are there any questions of the commissioners? Commissioner German.
On the fiber install, is it only for the trailer lots or for public safety also? Is it on the fiber install?
The fiber install?
Is it only for traffic lights or is it for public safety also?
It's only for city use.
Right.
That's the plan.
But what about public safety?
Public safety, yeah, the fiber would be connected to the traffic signal system So it'll control and it will be
So only traffic will use it.
other city users may use it also, including the police.
This question came up during the capital improvement budget questions. Why do such a small section? They don't want to do the whole thing.
Why don't we look at the whole thing?
Pretty major road.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we've just finished repaving one section of it, and I think we've completed the first section. I think these other sections require right-of-way acquisitions, and it's a little more,
Would there be a standard design for all of it?
I think that depends on right-of-way availability.
Am I allowed to help answer that? When we got to go up to the traffic room, they had said there's already budget and improvements going in for the fiber through San Carlos Drive, and that unless a federal stimulus package passed, they never had the money or plans to go past that. And so, because I know those staff aren't here right now, it is in the work. Like, so half of this is already planned. It's that the other half, they've just never had a budget potential.
Okay. Last question. The bike trail that you're proposing, will they extend to downtown?
Will it serve the downtown?
Will they extend to downtown?
At this stage, it's just to St. Carlos. The existing sidewalk is a shared bike and ped path.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from commissioners? Vice Chair Ash.
Okay, thanks. So vehicle tracking was something you mentioned. What's your can you elaborate on that?
I think Smadar, maybe you're better. Is that
Sorry, could you clarify vehicle tracking?
Yeah, you said on one of the slides he had mentioned vehicle tracking as part of the improvements to the road, and so I was wondering what you were talking, vehicle counts, what technology you were looking at.
I think that's just striping, improved striping, so it provides a better guide for vehicles that has the cameras that guides them through lanes. I think mainly that's what I'm looking at this point.
Okay. And then how much total are you requesting the grant for, and how much total do you need to do this wish list of projects?
It's a
Preliminary estimate.
it's a pretty rough estimate. We're looking at different components and what parts fit as an overall, but I think entire project wise, I think this will be I'm trying to remember, 20
23?
in the 23 million range.
So 23 million for the overall project, and then what is this grant application looking at? Because I know it's not the whole thing, but
Yeah, it's not for it's not for a specific grant. I think there's certain grants go for certain components of it, but this is just an overall view of all the different projects in that corridor.
Commissioner Salcedo.
Could you clarify what a Class 1 multi-use path entails?
Sure. Smadar Boardman, traffic engineer. So the Class 1, that classification is just from Caltrans. It's just a multi-use path. It's off-street. It's set away from the roadway. Sometimes it's just a really wide sidewalk that's shared between bicycles and pedestrians. But for example, the Iron Horse Trail is considered a Class 1 path.
So it would be combined use, I guess multi-use. And then has it ever been considered to have a dedicated bike lane along Ignacio Valley Road?
Yeah, so I'll answer that too. So the idea is having that Class 1 path. It's the right type of facility for Ignacio. When you're looking at different streets, you really need to consider the volumes, the speeds, and see what actually makes sense as a as a comfortable facility for a cyclist or even a walker. And so in this case, a class 1 is really the most protected type of facility you can provide for bicycles, which makes sense considering Ignacio Valley Road is this major arterial, has very high volumes and is higher in speeds.
And will there be any improvements for efficiency of public transit with this project?
I think that the technology with the fiber and the traffic signal improvements, there is a possibility that the whatever software or hardware that needs to go in would work for that.
But that is the kind of feedback we're looking for tonight, is if that's something that is of interest, then we can incorporate that into part of the project scope if we think that's feasible or if it aligns with grant funding.
Okay, and then for the traffic signal technology improvements, can you describe a little bit more what the thought is in terms of what those improvements would optimize?
I think mainly there's the video detection technology that adds to they detect vehicles, bicycles, even pedestrians. I think that's the first component of it. I think inside the cabinet we can add, as you said, the transit priority equipment in there, any type of Bluetooth sensing technology in there.
Yeah, and this ties back to that Innovate 680 Smart Signals project. So it's a component of Innovate 680, and what CCTA is looking to do is help with the 680 corridor in some kind of way. So especially as it relates to incident management, and since Ignacio Valley Road is this connection to 680, this would be possibly that opportunity, so that if there is an incident, then Ignacio Valley Road can help with flushing some of that vehicle traffic through during that incident, and then go back to normal operations otherwise. So there are a few different components. So it is that incident management piece, but then it's also improved technologies so that, like Alex mentioned, video detection and possibly closed circuit TV. And then you can also use, and then upgraded controllers or upgraded hardware for the traffic signals themselves. And we can use that so we can actually track the performance of our traffic signals as well. And that includes the performance of, pedestrians, bicycle activations. And then the last piece too is we can always overlay different softwares using those technologies. So depending on what we want to do, we could start thinking about, can we implement near miss type software so that we can detect if collisions may occur at an intersection and be able to track that as well. So these are all kind of pieces of a bigger puzzle, and it is very high level right now, but these bits of hardware improvements could really be beneficial for multiple uses.
Great. And then for the signal improvements, would that take into account both the Ignacio Valley Road traffic as well as cross-street traffic along this piece of the corridor?
Yeah, so I think it just depends on time of day, but the idea is if we have the right types of software in place, then we're able to try and improve efficiency in some kind of way. So depending on the time of day, perhaps the cross streets are the streets that we want to maybe provide a little more priority than what we're doing right now. But it really just depends on time of day. So it is a route of regional significance. We do have high traffic volumes along the corridor itself, and we do need to serve those volumes as well. So again, just depends on time of day, day of the week.
Okay, Commissioner Reese.
Do you have fiber on Ignacio Valley Road now out to San Carlos?
No, not yet. We've just started our first phase right now from City Hall to Civic Drive. This is the initial phase. The second phase, which we'll be looking to do in the next year or so, is to connect from Civic up to San Carlos.
Okay, and then this project would continue it out to Oak Grove?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I would ask a couple of things, and this might be a little too detailed, but in walking the corridor, there's some missing crosswalks, and there are very large turning radii that are designed for vehicle movement, not pedestrians crossing the street. And if we're going to put money into a multi-use path and try to get people to walk on that corridor, it would be great if we would consider redesigning some of the right turns in order to make them a little bit more pedestrian and bicycle friendly. And then one of the other items that you really
Commissioner
notice.
Reese, I'm just going to stop you
Sure.
for 1 second. Are these questions, we're doing questions from commissioners at this point.
Okay.
We'll take it to public comment, and then we'll do comments from the commission.
I'll turn them into questions, sorry.
Okay, that's all right, thank you.
So will you be going along the corridor and identifying ways of improving pedestrian travel through missing crosswalks and such?
Yeah, so that's a component of the project was the safety improvements. That includes taking a second look at the configuration of the intersections, and that includes, curb radius and shortening pedestrian crossings, and then looking at part of that too is the phasing that we were talking about. So should we consider any kind of modification to the traffic signal so that we can better get pedestrians, crossing the street, but then also there might be some secondary improvements to operations for drivers as a result. So we're looking at both of those.
And on the signal technology side, you mentioned that there might be transit signal priority. What about the ability to maybe do red light camera enforcement or camera enforcement with speeds? Will the technology be flexible enough to be able to incorporate those should the state change their vehicle code requirements?
I think that's something that we could discuss with Walnut Creek PD to see if that's something that would be of interest.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a
Commissioner German?
Some of the commissioners asked, I want to say that, then you've already took on fire project. How many strands are you running to St. Paul's now? How many strands are you running from City Hall to St. Carlos now in Project 1?
It's 288,
Is that?
288 strand.
All right. Bear with the question. I used to do that as a job. That's a lot. Okay. Thank you.
Vice Chair Ash?
Do the streetlights down Ignacio, does the city own them or are those all PG&E?
Good question. I think it might be a combination, but we'd have to check that.
Okay. Can you take that and get back to us?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, if everyone's wrapped up their questions, I'm going to ask a couple. Just clarifying around the Class 1 question, I'm trying to visualize that in my mind, and I did a little research, and I think that a bike lane is considered Class 2. So to clarify, Class 1 is like what is currently in front of that, I forget the name of the shopping center, the Safeway?
Yeah,
The Orchards. Okay, so to clarify, so we can picture that, that was one question I had. And then I just want to make sure that we have clarification on what you want from us today, because this is a long list of great stuff. We have a long list of buckets of money that we're going to go after. So do you want us to essentially help kind of prioritize these, or just give feedback on the concepts of each of these? I just want to make sure that you're getting out of what you want to get out of today.
I think we're just looking at any items that's missing, or if there's any.
I think if you have any strong feelings, though, in terms of prioritization, that would be beneficial for us too.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, at this point, would the secretary please provide the public comment information?
There doesn't appear to be any members of the public, so we can proceed with comments,
Okay,
Commissioner.
so at this time, are there any commissioner comments? Commissioner Salcido?
I think that this is a really great starting point in terms of improvements to this very important roadway in the city of Walnut Creek and to the greater region. And I completely understand that this is a thoroughfare that carries a lot of vehicles today. But I would personally love to think about how do we move people and not so much about how do we move vehicles, and put a focus on that. Because I think when we focus so much on the vehicular traffic, we tend to continue to support that model of transportation and neglect some of the other modes of transportation. And so I'd really like to make sure that, and I know that you have it in there with, improvements for pedestrians and cyclists, but I'd really like to make sure that that is prioritized in this project. And I'd like to see a bit more thinking about how we can support public transit or forms of micromobility along the corridor to make those options more efficient and more convenient and more appealing. Because if we continue to optimize for all of the traffic, that's just going to continue to support the status quo in terms of, Ignacio Valley Road is a terrible place to be in any other form of transportation other than a car, because it is very unattractive as a pedestrian or a cyclist today. So that's my primary concern, just given we are in such a huge climate crisis and transportation has such a huge impact on greenhouse gas contributions, and even with more and more people adopting electric vehicles, that's not going to solve all the problems, and you still have all of the asphalt and pavement that is part of the infrastructure that's needed, and we can move a lot more people if we are able to support alternative modes. So, but I thank you for the presentation and all of the thinking and work that's gone into this.
Thank you.
Any others? Commissioner Reese?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, Ignacio Valley Road carries a great deal of automobile traffic, and we can squeeze a little bit more out of it with implementing fiber and improved software and better cameras. We can get a little bit better, but we can really make a much bigger step forward for our community if we focus on the bike and pedestrian improvements along the north side of the corridor. Extending them down to San Carlos extends them to Heather Farms. And so everybody from San Carlos east, then if we provide connectors up to Ignacio Valley Road, would have a nice facility for getting to Heather Farms from their homes, from their neighborhoods. And so I think that what is my priority in this corridor, I think the priority should be that pedestrian and bike facility and making sure that it's really of high quality and that it includes all of the safety countermeasures that we can implement to help the vulnerable users of that facility. So for me, that's what I would prioritize. I recognize the importance of the fiber and the importance of the signal technology, but I really think for day-to-day people that are living in our neighborhoods east of San Carlos, really the bike and pedestrian facility gets them to our Class A recreational facilities, and so that would be my priority. That's it.
Thank you. Vice Chair Ash?
Thank you. So I like what my two commissioners said about the bike multi-use priority. I would also talk about adding in lighting for that for night use, particularly in like when it's dark in winter at like 5 o'clock for BART commuters. Because I know a lot of people who live off of Oak Grove will try to bike to the Pleasant Hill BART station, but because the nice canal trail there does not have any lighting and East Bay Parks will not permit any lighting in the next 10 years, it makes it hard for people to do. So if you can create that alternative path, at least part of the way that is light and safe at night, that would be great. I also, first or second overall, like, yay, I love this. I think this corridor is really important, and a lot of my questions over the last 2.5 years have asked on this corridor and just how we can improve it and how this commission can help do it. So thank you for addressing this overall. I also wanted you to encourage you to really use this as an opportunity to embrace technology. I know you talked about the 680 corridor access and doing things, but I think as you're going about making this improvement, part of the reason you're adding the fiber in will allow you to add new technology from 5G soft cell, but just future-proofing for autonomous vehicles, but traffic controls for you guys to help speed up the roadway, change lights. There's collect data. This is really a time where I'd like to see like you come back and actually make and say, hey, these are 5 technological things that we'd like to add in an ideal world to this. And I don't have all those answers, but I think this is a good time to start like looking at it and adding it to our conversations. And then the other sort of request I had was public transportation data. If you have any, and there's the pre-COVID and the post-COVID, since the world has changed on public transportation, but since we're talking about improving the public transit sections and pullouts, who's using it? Like, what is it? Is it Contra Costa Connect, the central transit agency that has it? Who, do we have any data for who uses it? Where do they come from? Where are they getting off? Are they taking it from like Oak Grove to Heather Farms? Are they taking it to BART? Is it mostly people coming from up over the hill? I think that would be great if somebody can come back in the next 2 months at our next meeting and sort of share that. That would be helpful for all of us to sort of know and understand related to this path. So again, thank you guys for prioritizing this area.
Yeah.
Any other comments? No? Okay. So I appreciate all of my fellow commissioners' comments. The public data, the data piece is an interesting element, and I think also public sentiment around that corridor and what our residents want and feel they need will be important to know as well. Kind of looking at this list, and thank you for putting together this list for us, this menu. I think that the Class 1 multi-use path is definitely very important. It's a connector to so many different elements in our communities, whether it's trails or parks and businesses. And I do hope that, once this is done, there's some sort of public education components to make sure that people use it and know all the different connections and know that they can get around this way now. I also think it would be good to get creative in exploring maybe, I don't even know what this is, public-private partnerships, things around shared smaller transit type mobility. We've talked about this a little bit as a commission before. In helping people get down this corridor. It might not be a bus, but it's not their car. I think there are smaller types of mobility that some folks are using in other cities around the country that maybe we can look at embracing here, seeing if we have the sentiment from our public to use that to get to BART or, some of the key places. The fiber optic infrastructure, I think anytime we can invest in technology is good, because I think it benefits us from an economic development perspective down the line as well, just in many different ways. So I do think that that's a priority for me. As far as the green infrastructure is concerned, I was kind of intrigued by this piece, and I wanted to be like, yeah, this is important, and it is important. I feel it's very important. But I'm also wondering too if that also might be something that would come out of another budget line item. And I think it's probably something that's going to be mandated by the state, our local water boards anyway, to have this type of infrastructure in place. So I do think that's important as well. And I think those are my key comments on what you've presented to us at this point. Thank you for your work on it. Anything else that you need from us, or shall we wrap up this agenda item?
I think we're okay. Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you.
And we're all good, commissioners, on comment? Okay, great. Let's see, we'll move on to agenda item 5. At this time, I would like to invite commissioners to provide their reports on activities and/or announcements that you might have.
Is this where we bring up something that we've noticed that we have a question about to the staff, or is this something different? This is my first meeting, so.
I think this is typically where commissioners report out on perhaps meetings that you've attended, like the chair or vice chair when we attend the mayor's breakfast, or the CCTA meetings, or anything transportation related that you might have attended that you would like to report out on. And I would defer to our secretary on anything I might be leaving out.
I mean, I suppose it's also announcements that are transportation related, so
Well,
yeah.
I can just add a little bit about CCTA. We actually haven't had our last 3 meetings, which this was a nice little break. But I've been working with them. A lot of what we do is approve. Cities have to report on their Measure J funds and what they're using it for. But I think in the last couple of months, they've embraced some ideas that I've put forward, which was really bring in some of the other partners in transit in Contra Costa County. And so I think this part is relevant, and it's been the people who are working on the electric bike programs, but it's also getting East Bay Parks to come in and talk about how they're going to increase ridership on the path. It's getting the bus agencies and BART to come in. And BART has to come in a second time because they did a bad job on their user data presentation to us. Because it's great if you give me a 2017 study on what people want on BART, but the world's changed a lot. And so that's sort of how we've been looking at things and where I'm trying to take it and sort of keep talking about interconnection between cities, right? We're talking about Ignacio Valley Road. Well, what's the percentage of traffic that comes from Clayton, Concord, Pittsburgh even coming over? So those are my little updates.
Okay, thank you for that report out. If there's general commentary or perhaps future agenda items or something like that, maybe that could be taken up with staff later, if that's what you're getting at, Commissioner Reese. Okay. If that's appropriate. Okay. All right. Barring no other announcements, I will adjourn our meeting, our March 17th, 2022 regular meeting of the Transportation Commission. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 19th, 2022.
Thank you.
God, barely, geez.